Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Just waiting on my co-host, Rachel.
Yep,
Hello,
I'm all
Rachel.
good. Hi, Andrew. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Super excited for this workshop.
Awesome. So we're just going to jump straight in and we'll introduce ourselves. Rachel.
Hello. So if everyone wants to go ahead and drop in the chat where they're from, we'd love to know where you guys are tuning in from. My name is Rachel Motley, and I'm a multidisciplinary artist and content strategist. So thank you guys, everyone, for coming. I'm super excited. And Andrew?
Yes. Yes, my name's Andrew Johnstone. As you can tell by my accent, I'm not from America. I'm actually from a little island down in Australia called Tasmania. So Google that, and you'll see some nice things. I'm the creative industries lead at Canva and have been a professional graphic designer for about 20 odd years. So yeah, really excited to be here today and to run you through some really great things with Canva. Just a little bit of housekeeping things just to kick off. Just wanted to remind everyone that we will have a Q&A towards the end of the presentation. So put your questions in the Q&A. The session is going to be roughly about 30 minutes long, and then there will be about 15 minutes Q&A. There will be a promo code for the free Pro trial, free Canva Pro. That'll come at the end, so keep tuned for that. And the workshops will be up on the Creatively YouTube channel at some point in the next week or so after the presentation. So yeah, so I'm going to kick off with just a little bit about Canva. One of the things we really love to tell an audience like yourself, people who are super creative, is that Canva itself is also a really creative company. We have over 500 creatives, designers of various types of Canva. We have the utmost respect for creatives, and we really, it's creative first when we design our product. We really want to empower creatives to use Canva, or creatives of all varieties to use Canva. And we really want you to be able to spend the time to be a creative. We know that as a creative, if you're running a business, there's a lot that goes on, more so than just the actual creative work. We want to really empower you to be able to just be creative, do what you do best. And Canva really is the really perfect tool for that because it's so easy to use. It allows you to manage the business side of your creative practice really simply and easily. And that's not just for yourself if you're a young entrepreneurial creative, but that's also for the teams you may work with or the clients you may work for. Because the big thing these days is really about the visual economy. We talk a lot about that at Canva. Everyone now, whether you're a designer, an artist, an illustrator, whatever you happen to be, everything that you touch has to be visually creative, and that's really where Canva can come in and really help you out. Because it's really the status quo now to be visual communication. Doesn't matter whether you're sending an invoice or sending a proposal to someone, they all have to visually be appealing and look really great. So that's really, once again, where Canva can really come in and help extend and defend the work that you do as a creative. And really, we're here to celebrate creatives. Oh, whoops, sorry, I skipped over it. Oh, no, I didn't. There we go. So let's get started. Super excited to be here with Rachel. Can't wait. So we're obviously going to run you through a few sort of things that we feel that as a designer, whether you're a professional designer or whether you're just a person who designs, using Canva or wherever you use, we want to show you some things today that we think can really help you within Canva. So first thing, I'm just going to quickly touch on a few things that we think are good for designers. So Canva, once again, as I said, really allows you to kind of broaden what you can do with your clients and your team. So designers, for the designers on the call, the programs that you generally use may not be accessible to your team, whereas Canva will allow your whole team and obviously your clients to really be enabled to kind of work on the designs that you create. And we'll talk a bit more about that. And we also wanted to sort of, there's the elephant in the room, of course, whenever we talk about graphic design, and that's Adobe. And we just wanted to first up mention that we love Adobe, we use Adobe, and we really want to see that Canva is complementing Adobe. Adobe has its place, Canva has its place, and we really want that to come across. And Rachel, did you have anything you wanted to mention here?
Yeah, I think so one reason why I'm particularly excited for this is because I really wanted it to be a moment for us to deconstruct the stigma that Canva is really only for beginners. When I first was kind of getting on Canva and getting acclimated, I think that honestly, I was kind of like, I don't know if this is like what I should be using, because I was using Adobe products more frequently at the time. I use Canva for everything now, but at that point, I think there was kind of like, I felt like it was really for beginner designers. And I began to see that like having help from these different assets, like the templates, the elements that they provide, doesn't make you any less of a designer. So I really want everyone to be able to keep that in the forefront of their minds as we move along.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great. So the first thing I'm going to talk about a little bit today is background remover. Some of you may or may not have used background remover in Canva, but it's an amazing tool that will just basically, change your world if you happen to have had to deep etch images or photos in the past. You'll realize that can be quite a time-consuming process, whereas Canva's background remover can allow you to do that really simply, literally with the click of a button. Rachel, have you used background remover at all?
I use the background remover so much, like you wouldn't even believe it, Andrew. I love that it's literally like the quickest thing possible. I know in other softwares you have to outline or trace something, and it's so much more time consuming, but the fact that I can just hit the button and it's done, it saves me a ton of time. Let me know if you guys think that it's been pretty helpful in your experience as well.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And even more exciting, maybe, given this is a really new product and hasn't really been sort of spread out that widely, is we actually now at Canva have background remover for video. So you can have a video clip, you can basically remove the background amount around the main foreground subject as well, which is going to really, in my opinion, kind of revolutionize how people can create different videos and make things really creative. Have you jumped on the background remover yet for video?
I have not. I actually didn't even know that this was a feature that Canva had. So I'm definitely going to have to try this one out.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely everyone jump on that, because it's it's going to be great. So the first sort of main topic we're going to talk a little bit about today, which once again we feel is really important to designers, but also just to anyone who wants to bring together different assets to create designs or artwork, is sort of centralized assets. So in the past, and a lot of people still do this, obviously, you'll have your assets all over the place. You might have them in different cloud software. You might have them on hard drives. I know personally, I've got about a stack of external hard drives like this big that I'll be suddenly like, oh, where's that photo I took 5 years ago? It can be a little bit messy, and it can be a bit time consuming in terms of finding all of those assets. However, Canva allows you to basically have those assets in pretty much in one place. No real need for storing things in multiple places. And the three different sort of areas that, or three things that you're probably mainly going to store really are, photos, which obviously, fairly obvious. You probably have photos from your own personal usage. Maybe you have photos from your clients or your team or your business that you can then, put up into Canva. They can all be stored in different folders, and they're right in Canva for you and your team to utilize. Same thing with videos. They can all be put up. You can put up, just loads and loads of video, and graphics. So, things like icons, illustrations, anything like that, you can also put up. Have you sort of centralized things a little bit with your work, Rachel? Have you started to kind of put stuff up into Canva?
Yeah, so a lot of times when I'm like going through decks, I'll have to create a deck for a client, another client. So it's always really helpful to have like all the photos that I need. Another thing that I have found really helpful is connecting my Instagram. So connecting my socials, I can literally just take the image from there, drop it right in. The fact that everything is in one area cuts me so much time.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm just going to run through a few little things here that sort of basically on the same topic. So what we do with Canva, the way the Canva user interface is, we have what's called projects. And that allows you to basically keep, once again, all of your, not just your assets, but all of your files. So you can have, your design work for a client or yourself. You can have your templates for presentation decks, social media, posts, all of that stuff. It sits within your projects, so that can all be, once again, really centralized and just right there. You don't have to search once again anywhere else. It's just right there. Rachel, do you want to chat through the brand kit?
I mean, I have to use the folders personally just because I told Andrew this before. I was like, I'm probably telling on myself a bit, but I did have multiple users on my account. And so finding a way to organize things was difficult at first, but the folders were definitely really helpful. Also, obviously, if you are really big on organization, just making sure that you keep your assets separately to make access easier, and just once again keeping it organized is always super helpful. Did you guys know? Let's see some comments in the chat. Did you guys know that you could organize by folders?
Yeah, well, look, how about Rachel? We'll get your friends some of their own accounts. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
And I did just want to mention the brand kit here a little bit. So brand kit's really great. Once again, if you're you're running the brand for your team or for a client, you can centralize everything. Once again, you can have the logos up there, you can have the typography, and also the colors that you can use. And that way, different team members can easily, or yourself as a designer, if you happen to be a designer, can choose from those things really easily. And that then relates to brand templates. So, you might be the creative of your team. You set up a template that then your organization, or once again, your client, can utilize really safely and really easily. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to make that kind of safe later on. And then, yeah, Rachel kind of already sort of touched on folders. Once again, yeah, you can have as many folders on there as you like. I think it can go about 10 folders deep, which is, pretty much more than you're probably going to want to need. So really great to keep things organized. So we might run into the next section now. So importing your files. So, Canva is its own product, but obviously there's other products that people need to use to utilize. So we can import files from various products, and the ones that I've highlighted here are PDFs, which is obviously a very common and well-used format. You can just drag and drop a PDF from your desktop into Canva, and it will basically recreate that PDF into Canva. And you can also do that with Illustrator files, so Adobe Illustrator files. They do need to be SVGs, and once they then come into Canva, you can then change up, I believe it's up to 5 colors, which is really great. You don't have to kind of go back and forth. And then PSDs as well. So you can put Photoshop files into Canva as well. So once again, as I said before, it's about complementing other programs you use rather than sort of trying to compete against them. So Rachel, have you used the sort of import files option much?
I have not. I didn't know that you could do the AI and the PSD files. I use AI files quite often and PSD files as well as a designer. So that's definitely something I'm going to have to try out. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I love that. I love that I'm teaching you during this as well.
No, you definitely are. You definitely are.
That's awesome. So the next thing we'll run into is what we like to call at Canva Unbreakable Templates. So as I'll chat about in a sec, we understand that one of the sort of hesitancies that designers sometimes have with letting their team or their clients kind of play with the files, because as a creative, you set these things up and they look beautiful and you really love them. And then sometimes you'll pass them off to someone who doesn't have that same design skill that you do, and they might kind of, mess it around a little bit. So how can you sort of maybe change that and make it more easy for them to utilize without them kind of breaking some of those rules that a designer just sort of intrinsically understands? So the 4 sort of ways we sort of have here at Canva that you can do this, 4 main ways. There's lots of other ways, but 4 main ways. Grouping. So the way that you can do that with a Canva document, and obviously I'm not going to demo this right now, but you can just go in and play via Canva. Is you can group group elements on your page, so that if, say, for example, you have a text box sitting within another color box, like you can sort of see in front of you here, you can group it so that it will move a different way, and you can make that decision so that, once again, a non-designer may not be quite savvy enough to understand that if they add more text, they need to make that color box longer, things like that. So sort of little things that ultimately make a really big difference. Anchoring as well is a really great one. So you can anchor your text box to either go down from the top, go from the middle, or go from the bottom. And that way, once again, just allows you to control where your text can go on the page, which obviously is super important from a sort of aesthetic and design perspective. And Rachel, I think you've used locking a little bit, have you?
Yeah, so I've used locking. I've also found that grouping particularly is very helpful when you're trying to resize things all to be the same size. So if you literally highlight all of them, well, highlight them, group them, and then you can kind of control it that way, or even just so things don't move. I found locking to be particularly helpful when I'm placing like text on top of some kind of element or like a shape, just so that the shape doesn't have to move and I can solely focus on the text.
Yeah, that's a really, really good tip, that one. I've done that myself many times. And the other great thing about locking as well is, like, for example, you don't want your team or your client to say to change up your logo. Logos are obviously very precious. You want to keep it how it is. You don't want them to use a non-branded color or make it, unfortunately, warp it or something like that. So you can lock things like logos. You can lock images that you maybe decide, like, you don't want people to change, things like that. So it really gives you a lot of control. And the other bit of control, I guess, is also around sort of customizing things. So you can customize kind of every element so that once again, your non-design team members or clients don't need to. So you can really have it sort of perfect for them, so that there's only certain elements that they may need to change. For example, no designer likes to go in and have to kind of update copy all the time, putting a comma where, oh, we missed a comma. Oh, we didn't do, that's just a little bit painful. So, your client can literally just do that. You don't have to do that for them. You can do that. And it just saves you so much time to, once again, as I said earlier, to kind of just really, focus on the actual creative work, the fun stuff, rather than that sort of those little tiny changes that as a experienced designer myself, I've had to do just so many of them. And it would be great to be able to put them aside and focus on, other things. So we'll move on here. Another area that is really great in terms of the controlling, and making sure that your templates and your brand stays on brand, is what we have called brand control. So this is a part of our Canva for Teams, and also, I believe, Canva Pro, but forgive me if I'm wrong there. But you can set different controls. These are the three main ones that I think are most appropriate for designers. So you can set color control. And what would happen basically, if you click on that button to control the colors, it will mean that only people who are basically administrators of the account, therefore probably the more experienced designers, can choose which colors. So if you have a brand that you want to only people to use only the brand guideline based colors, which is what you generally do, then they won't be able to choose any other colors. They'll only be able to choose the brand colors, which is obviously super valuable. Font controls, that, once again, similar thing. If you don't want them to, maybe you use, I don't know, Helvetica, say, for your brand font. You don't want someone choosing Comic Sans. Yeah, the classic, exactly. You don't want someone choosing Comic Sans because they think it looks pretty, right? It just doesn't work for your brand. So you can set those controls in order to stop them basically doing that. Once again, it's not about being sort of big brother and, oh my God, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's just about understanding that you, as a creative, you understand these rules, you understand these things, and other people in your team, and particularly maybe your clients, if you work with them, they may not understand that in the same way that you do.
Yeah, I think,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, I think that as the designers, we put in so much time into trying to figure out the color scheme, what fonts pair best. And so you just want to you want to maintain that, the time that you put in, just all of the effort. This is just a great way. It's very simple, and it's just an amazing way to kind of implement that control while still not necessarily having to have that tough conversation all the time of hey, this doesn't look the best. So just having these kind of precautions in place it's a great way to help your client out.
Yeah, that's such a great point. It's that back and forth that really takes the time. You pass something on, they may unfortunately not understand it. You then they have to come back to you. You have to fix it, and it can just can kind of take time. And as I've mentioned a couple of times, we want you as creatives to just be focused on being creative. So these controls can really do that. And a really great way to sort of wrap it up in a way is design approval as well. So, once again, as we were just saying, if your team members or your clients or other people who are working with you just don't quite understand things in the way that you do as a creative person, you can set them so that set design approvals on, and that way everything that they look to send out, they won't be able to actually share something, for example, like share a social media post or a presentation or print a document, any of those things that you can do via Canva. They won't be able to do that until you give them your approval as the sort of, once again, the sort of creative of the team. And that, once again, just saves a lot of time, because it means that you don't have to necessarily do all the work. You can have them still update the copy, maybe change some images, play around with the content, but you can have that final kind of look over it and that final say, which is obviously really important. Have you used design approval much, Rachel?
I actually haven't. I haven't used design approval. I think the most I've done is like the comments. I love to use the comments and leave recommendations or allow my friends or whoever I'm working with to like let me know if there's any changes that need to be made. So I think just even leaving comments on the side when it's not really like a business relationship, but it's a little more relaxed and informal, casual. The comment section has definitely been helpful for me.
Yeah, for sure. We're actually going to chat about comments in a little minute as well, but that's okay. That's fine. So another little top tip that we wanted to jump in on is Magic Resize. So this is another really awesome tool that Canva has that, once again, for creatives or for anyone really, it's basically, as the name suggests, it allows you to take an artwork that you have. Say you create a Facebook post, for example. It then allows you to instantly, as you can see on the recording here, basically select resize, select if you wanted to change that to, say, an Instagram story sizing or a LinkedIn post or whatever it is that you happen to do, TikTok, etc. It can easily do that. You just click resize, it resizes it for you. You probably sometimes need to go in there and make a few adjustments to that different sizing, but it does it all for you once again in the click of a couple of clicks. And as you know, once again, if there's professional designers on here or even just people who work in this area, you'll understand that generally you don't just design one thing in one format, especially these days with all the different social media formats that you need. So this can really save you a lot of time. You don't have to, copy out documents and then open them and then, resize and all of that stuff. You can do that super easily in Canva. And Rachel, have you used Magic Resize at all?
So I don't think I've used the Magic Resize. Like I'm like the queen of going in and manually switching to do a new size and then copy and pasting. So I need to know, like, did you guys know about this? Because who didn't tell me? Who did not tell me? I want to know.
Yeah, well, everyone knows. Everyone on this call knows now, so that's great. And yeah, like I said, it's such a huge time saver. In terms of putting out all of that content that is needed. On a these days, obviously on a daily basis, given that social media is so prominent. So it can be really handy. And also if you to work on cross print jobs as well, if you needed to create various poster sizes, for example. It can be really handy with that as well. So definitely a top tip, one for everyone to check out. So we're going to roll into our last section for the workshop about collaboration. So we obviously touched on this a minute or so ago in terms of how you can collaborate with people directly in Canva. And once again, one of the things that I was most excited about when I started at Canva a couple of years ago was this idea of collaboration. So it had just been released, I think, or it was released very, very soon after I started. Basically, you can, let me just click to the next thing, but you can have multiple collaborators on the same document working at the same time. So you could literally have, say, a presentation deck that you're creating for your boss or your team member. And basically, you can be in there designing it whilst they're also in there adding copy. They can also be adding feedback in the comments. They can be just doing, all sorts of things on that same document. You can have 20 people. You probably wouldn't want to do that, right? It'd be a little bit crowded. But you could have literally just dozens of people working on the same document at the same time, which, as you can imagine, would just save so much time. Giving and receiving feedback is also a huge one. So for those of you who've had to do this in the past, you'll understand the pain of having to save out a document, send that across to your maybe someone in your team, or in particular your client. They then have to give you feedback on that document. It gets sent back to you. You then make those changes, and generally you'll then have to send it back to them. They'll then have to have another look at it, make sure it all looks good, and so on and so forth. It's professional designers, it's the whole version, final version, final version, final version, all of that kind of thing, and it's constant, and it creates so much time within the process. But within Canva, as Rachel mentioned earlier, you can basically go in, add comments, and basically, comment on things literally in that same document, literally as the other person's actually using that document, so they can see your comments, action it directly in that. I'm in Australia, Rachel, you're in Washington, I believe, in the States. We could be commenting on this same document right now at the same time, which is just incredible. And once again, such a massive time saver. And you can share those documents as well with anyone, and assign different tasks to people as well. Once again, within that exact same document, you don't have to send them across back and forth. So Rachel, obviously you've used this a little bit, you mentioned.
Yeah, particularly the share and assign I found to be super helpful, because I can choose if I want the person receiving the link to be able to edit it, to only be able to view it. And so I think there's like specific view only links. That's been really helpful for attaching in emails. So I would say this is probably one of my favorite features. It's made things extremely convenient and easy for me. And just like you mentioned, there are other, we don't want to talk about everything too much, but there are other softwares where you cannot necessarily just hop on and collaborate with someone that you're working with. So Canva, you guys did something really right here.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. All right, so that was our final slide for the workshop. So now we're going to go into questions. I believe there's a few questions.
Oh, hello. It's Kyle chiming in from Creatively here. There are quite a few questions. I'll just go directly down the list to get started. Our first question, are there any opportunities to collaborate with Canva open to creators like us? And how do we go about working with Canva?
That's a great question. I can't answer it, but that's a great question, Lily.
Yeah, no, that is a great question. And yes, there are opportunities to work with Canva. We have what's called Canva creators, actually. So basically what this means is that you can create templates and elements as well. So illustrations, icons, etc., and basically have them up on Canva, and you can actually make revenue from that. You can actually, essentially, earn money by doing that. So I'm not sure if we can maybe put it in the chat what the actual website is that you would go to. I believe it's probably canva.com/creators that you can go to. But yeah, that's really great program that we have. I know that quite a few people are doing really well from it by updating their templates a lot. But that's a really great opportunity. There are other opportunities as well. Canva Presents or Canva Represents, I think it's called, is a really great initiative we have for sort of under represented people throughout the world who can be represented through the elements, in particular photography and video on Canva. So yeah, there are a bunch of different ways you can get involved with Canva.
Love that. Love to hear it. So this is a bit of a comment question combo. It says, at the start, I definitely used Canva for fun, but eventually integrated it into my business for creating professional graphics for clients. The question is, what's one tool that has really helped you design on Canva?
That's a great one, Candy. Do you mind if I start this one off, Andrew?
Yeah, go for it.
So one of my favorites, I usually use Canva to create decks. And so a lot of times I'll be having to upload logos into Canva to use on my decks, and the logos may not go with the color of the deck that I am working on. And so I began to use the duotone feature. That's not something that we mentioned today, but that's been really helpful for me to just go ahead and like overlay, essentially put a color on top of the color that already exists. And so overlaying, it's been like a little cheat to overlay. So that's probably been one of the most helpful features for me.
Yeah, for myself, to be honest, I think it's kind of what we talked about at the start around the centralized assets. You know, that's been such a revelation for me to be able to have your Canva editor there, simply click on a folder and you have all of your photography that you need for a document, or, you know, the logos you might need, the icons, illustrations, etc. To have that right there is, in my opinion, just amazing, because I've spent, as I mentioned earlier, I'm obviously probably a lot older than a lot of people here on this call. I have been doing this for quite a long time, and I know how long it takes you generally to find those files, you know, and Canva, and, you know, right from day one, our founders have really made an amazing product that brings all that together so that it's all really right there in front of you in Canva. You know, you can print, you know, a business card, for example, from Canva. You can, you know, you got all of your stock photography is in Canva. There's beautiful images and videos and audio files are right there. And that in itself is, in my opinion, like the thing that I love the most about Canva, that ability just to have it all right in front of you, rather than so many different products here and there and files all over the place. That's my favorite thing about Canva.
Someone asked, they asked where the duotone is in the toolbar. So if you like click the image and you click edit image, then it will show the duotone feature under like the array of other features you have. No problem, Tina.
Thank you so much for these thorough answers. Let's get into a little bit more. Oh, this is a good one because I loved when you guys pointed this tool out. Can you specify if you want the foreground when using what you want in the foreground, excuse me, when using the background remover?
That's a good question, actually. You can go in, I do know that you can go in and edit what it sort of, where it kind of grabs or sort of selects, is probably the better word. I must admit, I haven't really needed to do that because it's so intuitive that it kind of does just grab, you know, the right image. Every time I've used it, it's just selected the right one. But obviously there are there's some limitations, because if your photo, for example, is really noisy, as in it's got a lot going on in the foreground, and there's, say, multiple people or multiple objects in the foreground, it may struggle, and you may need to go into the tool and sort of you can sort of select or what's the word, kind of erase, I guess, or add where you want. So you can do that. Yes, I haven't had to. Like I said, it's always just done it so well for me that I haven't needed to personally do that. But I believe the tool is there that you can select and deselect certain things. So my suggestion, I'm sorry, I don't know who's asking these questions in terms of the actual person. I don't have that in front of me, but my suggestion would just be to go in and have a play around with it. Once again, it's super easy to use. You'll know exactly what there's like a little plus and minus that'll come next to on the panel when you do it, and it's pretty easy to be able to figure out how to do that, I think.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. A couple of questions here from one person, but there are 4 questions, and they all kind of, tandem off of each other. What do you feel are the limits of Canva? Well, and what do you feel are the limits of Canva versus other platforms? What are your go-to projects? What do you go to use other platforms versus Canva? Which type of projects? What advice do you have for young designers as well?
Oh, okay.
Well,
so I'm
kind
of like,
Rachel, do you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, sure. I'm trying to keep up with all of them. So And from what I remember. So I'm not even just saying this because we're on a Canva call. I use Canva for everything. I think the only thing I don't use Canva for is to literally like illustrate. So I do use other software to illustrate, but anything else, it doesn't matter what it is. I use Canva for that. And then I'd say my piece of advice for beginners in their career is I'd say like really sit down and think about like what your goals are. If there are particular people or brands that you want to work with, I would say start creating mock concepts. That's always something that I stand by. So I think that would be like my number one piece of advice for beginners.
Yeah, that's a really great piece of advice. And I guess myself, what I often say, and I've spoken to a lot of colleges and universities and younger designers over the years and creatives is to really immerse yourself in creativity and in whatever it is you're doing, because I think people who work, people who are possibly going to employ you through studios or agencies or clients that you may want to pitch to, they kind of will see that passion that you have for what you do. And so, really immerse yourself in it. I mean, and the people on this call, obviously you kind of are doing that because, you're on this call. So you're immersing yourself in the world of design. You're looking at different tools, different products. How do I better what I'm doing? So continue to do that, go to events. Obviously, check out your Creatively, friends on Creatively, look at their profiles, really get involved in the community. That's something that I think is really important. And even more so these days, given that, there are a lot of people working remotely because of, obviously the last few years of the COVID pandemic and all of that. So it's really important to kind of ingratiate and ingrain yourself within that community. I think that can really sort of extend yourself as a creative and as a designer. Oh, and the other question, what was the other question? Sorry, Kyle, I can't remember.
Let me scroll back up. Limitations, Canva versus other platforms for you in particular.
Yeah. Look, and as I've already said a couple of times, we understand that Canva is for everyone, right? Canva is our motto is empower the world to design. Whereas a lot of other applications that are used are probably more focused towards the professionals. And we really understand that. So Canva is about letting everyone use it, whether you're a designer or not, obviously. So yeah, look, in terms of what I might use, say, other software for, it's probably similar to what Rachel said in terms of, sort of detailed illustration, vector-based illustrations. You might, use another program. Really hardcore editing of photography, things like that. The photography editor in Canva is definitely developing and is getting really great. But there are, some things that obviously still can't do. So they're probably the two areas where I might use other software. But like Rachel said, I'm pretty much in Canva, 8 hours a day, and sometimes more. And I always then sort of use it as the end. It's essentially the sort of the sort of thing that brings all those things together. So you might do an illustration somewhere else. You might even just scan that in. It might be a hand-drawn illustration, and then you just bring that into Canva as part of a poster, a presentation, a document, whatever you need it for.
Amazing. Jumping into a design-specific question a bit, someone's asking, can you share how to create batch content again? They want to see that again, if you're able to share that with them again.
Yeah, so the magic resize, I would imagine that is. Let me just trying to figure out. Here we go. Share my screen again. Everyone can see that. Where are we? Go back to magic resize. So yeah, so this is basically the sort of batch tool. You can copy a document as well. If you have a document that you've created, so you want to create a new document, but it's the same size, but you want to change up the content in that document, you can just make a copy really easily, rename that copy, and then go in and obviously change that content. So Canva can do that sort of thing quite easily. But yeah, Magic Resize is really great in that, it's really easy. You just go up to resize in your menu bar up the top there in Canva. Basically, as you can see, this animation here, you select whatever document you may want to change it to. You can customize that by using your own specifications for whatever document it is you're using. Whether you can obviously choose whether you want to do it in pixels or inches or centimeters, wherever you happen to be, and whatever measurements you need, and really easily resize those things. So yeah, so hopefully that was a little bit more of an explanation. But there are, if you check out canva.com/design school, I'm sure there's some sort of more detailed explanation of how to use it. We have loads of different kind of videos and tutorials and courses and things that you can do if you go to our YouTube or as I said, Canva Design School as well.
I think someone mentioned in the chat that the feature is for Canva Pro, but since you guys all have access to Canva Pro now, you can use it. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there in case you're having trouble finding it. It may be because you don't have Canva Pro, but if you don't, then QR code.
Yeah, you'll be getting Canva Pro any minute now.
Awesome. Another design specific question is, what's the difference between the two sorts of locking that you mentioned?
Oh yeah, so the two sorts of locking that you can have is there's basically, I apologize, I don't know the exact name of it, but basically there's sort of like let's call it a first stage locking. So for example, if you have a text box and you want to lock where that box is and the size of that box, but you don't want to lock the text, so you want someone to be able to actually edit the text, you can lock it so that they can then go in and edit the text. They won't be able to edit, as I said, the size of the box, where the text box sits. They won't be able to edit the typeface. I believe they can't even edit the color, but they will be able to change the text within that box. Once again, really nice way to be able to control where people can, where that box can sit, how big that can be, in case, if, for example, it's a headline, you don't want to do a 50-word headline, right? So you can set those parameters so that other people won't sort of break that document. And then the sort of second stage, or the main locking, is where you lock that thing completely. So you can basically, like say, for example, you have a logo on a document and you don't want anyone else to be able to change or touch or move or whatever that logo. You just lock that logo and it will not, they can't move it or change it. Same if you have, say, for example, a text box, once again, that's a headline that you don't want them to be able to change or update on a certain document or certain template, you can lock that off and they won't be able to touch it or change it. So yeah, once again, my suggestion, just go in and have a play around. It's super intuitive using Canva, so just have a play. But yeah, hopefully that sort of explained the locking a little bit more.
Sweet. Thank you, Andrew. Another good one is, are there free images on Pro, and are the mockups easy to drag and drop?
Rachel, do you want to?
Yes, to both of them. So for the first question, yes, I think Andrew would have to speak to whether they're royalty free, but I assume so. Like, I use them all the time, so I love to use the Canva images, and they're so easy you just click them, drop them right into whatever you're using, and like you don't have to wait for it to load. It's super fast. That's honestly something that I love. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, just to jump back in, they are license free. So Canva, the free version, you have access to quite a few images. The Pro version, you have access to just millions, literally millions and millions of images, and videos, once again, audio files, elements of everything. It's basically, once you have Canva Pro, everything that you see within Canva you can use wherever you like. And in terms of the other question, I believe it was when you using templates or other documents that are within Canva, it's super easy just to then drag them into another presentation. So say, for example, you had a presentation file and you liked one page from a different presentation, you can then just select that and put it into your current file and then utilize that design. You might want to change it up a bit, but there might be something in there that you quite like. So you can very easily drag and drop not only all the elements, photography, etc., but also different pages from templates or the complete template, and then utilize that and change it for your own purposes.
Awesome. Wrapping up with the last two questions, a little bit more fun design questions. What's your favorite design principle or combo of principles? I'd love for both of you to answer that question.
Andrew, you can start because I don't even know.
All right. Well, to me, my two favorite principles, and I actually did a little run through with my team on these, which a couple of my team on here will find funny, but the two principles that I think are fundamental to just creating something that looks decent as a design are alignment and consistency. So when you see a design and it's not aligned, so different things, so a text box isn't aligned with an image, or your title isn't aligned, or sort of from both vertical and horizontal, it can look very messy, can kind of look a little bit all over the place. But if you align those things and work with different alignments on the page, it can just add some real sort of some balance to it, some style and consistency to that document. And the other one I just mentioned, obviously, again, was consistency. So if you have a multi-page document, for example, make things consistent throughout that document. If you have a title font, use it the same size throughout that whole document. If you have body copy, use it the same size. You'll have noticed, hopefully, with this presentation, that you can see it right here, the copy that says questions. If I flick back a little bit, if I go for here, if I go back here, it's always the same size. And that was deliberately done by myself. And you can even see that the little sort of navigation thing on the side that says creatively classes and designing with Canva, it's always the same. And that just really adds a consistency to your document that makes it look really, professional and really nice.
I love that. It's a perfect lead into a question specifically for you, Rachel, and this will be our last question. So Andrew, if you want to share the code now, while Rachel's answering this, and I'll give everyone time to be able to get the code. Rachel,
Yes.
Can you name a time when you used Canva to shoot your shot at a brand and it went in? Specifically,
Sure.
any presentations that you've made that have gotten you, that big yes, that foot in the door?
So usually when I'm creating decks for clients, they are clients that I've already had, but I can say that I sent Creatively a deck. They you all had
She sure did, and it worked.
And it worked. So previously, Creative reached out to me for something different, and I was like, hey, well, this is what else I can do, what else I'm interested in, and I'd love to partner with you all further. So I actually sent over an entire deck, just kind of telling them a bit about myself and how I'd like to work with them. And my shot went in. So here we are with a workshop with Canva and Creative. So yeah, definitely make decks and send them out. You never know what's going to happen.
That's great.
Amazing.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you. And thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Make sure you
get that so much. Also, sorry. Go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, I was just going to quickly say, and then Rachel, you jump in. Just so you're aware, you do need to be a new user in order to use this code. So if you have an existing pro account, what we suggest is you set up maybe use this through a different email address. We know that's not ideal, but this is the system at the moment. So yeah, or you can just let your Canva Pro run out and then you'll be able to use this code. So if you're having any problems with your code at the moment, that may be it. But yeah, over to you, Rachel.
Oh, I was just going to say, and everyone, please feel free to connect with me on Creatively. My Creatively is The Real RJM, as well as my Instagram. So I'm just going ahead and dropping it so you guys can have the links to both.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone. It was awesome to be able to speak to you today, and hopefully, really love to see the work that you've created on Canva. So thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks
Thank you
everyone.
all.
And reminder, you can DM Rachel on Creatively as well. So
Yes.
feel free to reach out there. Bye everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.